B5. So B5 does not have an inactive form, but you can think of 5 as you think of pentose. Pent is associated with 5. So the active form of B5 is pantothenate or pantothenic acid. So one thing to remember is that anytime you see something like pantothenic acid or folic acid or anything acid, if they give you an 8 at the end, like pantothenate or folate, it's the same thing. So don't worry about it. If you're like, oh, it's kind of the same, but it has acid at the end, but it doesn't have acid at the end, it's the same word, but it's the same thing, it's the same thing. So just don't worry about it. If it's 8, you can replace that for the acid, and you're making the right choice. So B5, I just think of when I'm looking at a 5 on a piece of paper, I see this nice flat top and round bottom, and that seems like a really strong structure for me. So I think of something sitting on top of that structure of the 5. And so that's how I remember that B5 is the structural component of coenzyme A. So B5 is the structural component of CoA, or coenzyme A. Along the line of that structural analogy, the deficiency disease associated with this is burning foot syndrome. So I think our feet are what holds up our structure of our body. So we're standing on our feet, that's our structure. So B5 deficiency can't hold up our structure as well. We have burning foot syndrome. And then to take that a step further, you start that fire at the bottom, burning foot syndrome, and B5 is heat labile. So you're burning down the house. So you have the structure of the house, it's heat labile, so you're burning down the house. So B5 pantothenate is the structural component of CoA. You have burning foot syndrome, and it's heat labile. So B6, pyroxidine. So this one is really fun. I think it's my favorite one. So I think of the letter, or the number 6. I hope that's facing the right way. It might be backwards. So B6 is 6 looks like a P. So it's pyridoxine. Pyridoxine is the active form. But more importantly, PP, B6, the active form is PP. So pyridoxal phosphate, which actually has 3 P's in it. So B6, pyridoxine, pyridoxal phosphate, 6P-PP. Now remember that B1 was TPP, B1, TPP, which is pyrophosphate, and B6 is just pyridoxal phosphate. So they both have phosphates involved, but one has a T in front, and this is PP. So I hope that helps and make that extra association. So B6 is pyridoxine or pyridoxal phosphate. I think of pyridoxal phosphate, so I think of pyramids when I think of 6. So 6 is pyramids and P. There's more P's coming, so stay tuned with that, with the same B6. So the next part, though, is transamination. I don't know, I just think trans, like going across transamination, as I have this little like P thing going on. But also the P looks like an A, a little lowercase a. So if you say the B6, its role is transamination. It goes from a keto acid to an amino acid, AA, amino acid. So B6, pyridoxal phosphate, transamination from a keto acid to an amino acid. And then the deficiency disease associated with this was a write-in on board reviews, is carpal tunnel syndrome. So carpal tunnel syndrome, median nerve is B6, like making a little 6 with, I also think of that dermatome as similar to the median nerve. So B6, pyrophosphate, or not pyrophosphate, pyridoxal phosphate, transamination, and carpal tunnel syndrome. And then it's made by the flora, so it's made by probiotics. So we have another P, so probiotics. B6 is made by probiotics. That's a special note. Okay, so moving on to B7, we're almost at the end. B7 biotin. This is another one of my favorite ones. So B7 biotin. So I think of